Okay, uninterrupted.
Right.
Let's go. So, man, Gage, finally,
Yeah.
we get to do this. We're so passionate about this.
Yes.
I love you, man.
Best
Best friend.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, let's go right into it.
Sure.
Servant leadership. Man, when you think of that about servant leadership, what are like the first things that come to mind?
Well, for me, when I think of servant leadership, I think of like two applications or two ways of looking at it, worldviews. There's the corporate side of it, like in the business side. There's also the church side. You know, I grew up in the church all my life, so I'm very familiar with the church aspect of it. And, you know, but servant leadership has been a conversation way before Jesus. I'm going to be kind of like a history.
Okay.
Over 500 years ago, in the Chinese culture, Lao Tzu was somebody who talked about servant leadership. You have like, you know, the modern people now like Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, you know, Mother Teresa. Like I'm not saying I agree with everything that they say, but servant leadership has definitely been a part of, and I think it's the huge defining moment was when Jesus started talking about it, and when he came. I want to allude to when Jesus was washing the disciples' feet. And just like he was just shifting paradigm. He was turning things upside down. Like leaders don't wash, you know, their servants' feet. And you know what I'm trying to say? Like
it's like in his time and even like now, like it's always been like countercultural.
Oh yeah,
and just
revolutionary, if I would say.
Going, almost like raging against it. Of like this is what it really looks like. Like I know this is what you guys think like it looks like, but this is what it really looks like.
It's so true.
And just like thinking of those names too, just like servant leaders, they make such impact.
Oh yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah.
The impact is more like unseen than seen, and I think
I wanted to talk about that.
Sure.
Yeah, no, but absolutely. Keep going.
I think leaders. Okay, I have a couple of like things that I feel like is important for like the younger generation. Like you know what I'm saying? But if I can kind of share some things and how like you can really apply this in a practical sense. It's so important to value people's time. And I think as a leader, and I know that there are a lot of young leaders, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities that they get and all that stuff.
Right.
But as a young leader, I think one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that everybody's time is valuable and precious.
Right.
You might be leading people who make like $80 or $100 an hour in their corporate world, and then you might be also leading people who make $15 an hour. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But to treat them with the same level of respect.
Right.
And to know how to lead and care for them, I think that takes tremendous amounts of like wisdom and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And, I think as young leaders, that's something that you have to be mindful about, man. Like in your congregation, you might have people literally like making so much more than you, but you have to know how to be able to like lead them in a way that's going to also be influential and attractive to people who might be making much less than you. But I think those are things that you got to keep in mind. A servant leader would know how to serve all of these people. Jesus wouldn't. It wouldn't matter to him.
It's like just having that mindset. Just I see that as like a built maturity, a built character. To be able to do that, to be like hyper aware of that, and be able to be effective. Right. So like that can be built within time, and I think at the same time too, it's good to of course you're not doing it alone. So like you're able to do that with the people that you surround yourself. So that's why like it's so important too of like who are you surrounding yourself, like, and going into like mentorship. And like I know your heart on that of like we can get so caught up of like it's age thing, it goes down, but versus how it could be actually both ways.
Right,
and it's something that I always have like in my heart. It's like the maturity, the growth is all contingent in how hungry you are.
Right.
Like if you are hungry, you're gonna keep just taking in all of this. So it doesn't necessarily mean because you're a certain age.
Right.
Like if you went in.
I love what's going on right now in like pop culture. Do you remember that epic moment where Kanye West and Virgil from he met his mentee, I guess, someone he was mentoring.
Yeah.
They hugged after that fashion show in Paris, and there's this like epic picture of just two of them just hugging and weeping. And I think that's just a great picture of like how mentorship really works. So like this is something to consider. Like I think young leaders right now, because I kind of vibe with young people, and I've always kind of like had a affinity or bridge towards that. I guess whether I have the tattoos and stuff, but I've always, or the Supreme hat, just from a long time, I've always like connected with that culture, right? Or like kind of really respected it and liked it.
Right.
But think about this, like in the military, like if you and I were Marines, right? We could pass for that too, right?
Let's go. Let's go.
One of the things I love about the Marines and the military is that if we were in a firefight, right, and I was shot or something happened, you wouldn't think twice about coming and getting me. Because courage is something that's built in, right? But I'm not talking about the courage aspect of it. I think there's something fundamentally servant leadership in there. And this is what I'm trying to say. Look, like you would come and sacrifice yourself so that you can come and protect me or help me, right?
Right.
Whereas in the corporate world, we have all this nonsense going on where these like bankers and high-level CEOs, they're sacrificing. They'll lay off 5,000 employees, and then they'll take a $20 million bonus. Because for them, they don't care about the people who are working underneath them. And what I'm trying to say is, like, as a young leader, when you're coming up, you have to be mindful that your purpose as a leader is not to exercise your leadership over people.
Yes.
But you have to lift and listen and all these one love and all these beautiful words that Jesus would do.
Right.
And you have to really build that patience. That inclusive, that really connected group.
Yeah.
But then as a church leader, are you going to do that with just your core staff? Are you going to do that with the people who are your employees? Or are you going to do that with volunteers? And are you going to go even lower? Keep going lower, and then really make everybody feel. Imagine as a young pastor, you come in and then you're coming into the service and stuff, and somebody who looks up to you and admires you comes up to you and says, hey, how are you, pastor, and stuff like that, and you don't even really like shake his hand or take the time. Like that is a good example of what servant leader should not be.
Right.
Servant leader would stop and give a hug. Human connection, there's nothing that's more valuable than that.
Yeah.
And that's why when Jesus was washing the feet, he was touching their dirty feet.
Oh, he went.
He went like,
I want to do that.
But that attitude, that philosophy of life, of how it affected every core of that's the key. And you have to find that for yourself. There's not like this 3-point thing, and if you do this and whatever, it's a lifestyle.
That's the thing too, because so easily that in and of itself of like 3-point, like these things that I need to do, it's like, okay, so where is that focus?
Right.
And that's where it's so
so
important.
Package is what I'm saying.
You're getting away from yourself.
Yeah.
And you're putting yourself out to the others, and that's the whole point. Like it's about them, and like working together, being there for them, and helping everyone else like just elevate.
That's a good segue. So AA, right? Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff like that. They've been proven effective. Like many like there's hundreds and thousands of people who've been through that and have benefited from it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know all the steps, but their philosophy, because I have a good friend who kind of went through that process, and he told me that the last step is the most important step.
That was amazing.
Right, if you don't do the 12th step, the 12th one, then you're going to probably fall back into alcoholism again. But you know what it is? It's to help others, or help other people who are having the same problem, and helping them to get out of that.
Yeah.
So that truly is servant leadership, because it's all about I go through something, and if I can help you with it, it's like There's nothing greater than that. And I think mentorship is so important to that aspect, you know? And mentoring, like I said, it can go sideways, it can go up, it can go down. You can be mentored by many different people, and you should know who they are, and you should really value that, because mentorship is more than just listening to a podcast or something, but it's really having a relationship with someone.
Exactly.
And if someone can speak into your life, whether it's positive or negative, reinforcing or kind of like telling you, editing you, in both ways, it's very beneficial and very, very good.
And what's great, I love the fact that you bring up like the workplace and church.
Yeah.
Like you can see this in holistic.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
You can be just you could be even cold like for the workplace and make that difference out there. Being mentored out there.
I can give you an example of work.
You can do church and
how many of us have worked for a company where the boss was horrible?
Yeah, I spoke about that.
Okay, but so many people, right? But it doesn't mean just because the people above you are horrible doesn't mean that you should treat other people in your peers and people you work with horribly. And I think that's a huge way of helping bring the light of Christ and the salt, being the salt.
Yes, exactly.
By being like that. So I'll give you an example. If someone like shoots you an email and it's kind of like, explain yourself, or you get some unsavory email, the best thing to do is either call that person or to go to them, talk to them face to face. And these are things that I think are servant leadership stuff, where you humble yourself and you go and you talk to them. You actually want to connect them. There's a huge difference, because you know what happens with technology. A lot of times when we text each other, that's a whole.
You can be so
benevolent,
missing the content, and
and even then, it's
because you're not face to face. So
that's a simple example of servant leadership in a sense, because, and I'm not trying to water it down. I'm just saying, in every way, you can lead by being a servant. And servant is always about placing yourself less and then trying to lift up other people. Great example of John the Baptist. Imagine if your whole purpose and your destiny was to usher the way of someone greater than you, and he did it with such class. Right?
And his response,
his response
too. It's like wow, he put in all that time, have all these people with him. And then he's like, okay, well, he's here. Yeah. This is why I was here. Right. I'm lifting him up.
I love him. He's such a great example. And, Jesus, when he came, he was about, ushering something different. His life, he was there to help us to really figure out what we're supposed to do. And if he placed such a high emphasis on being a servant, I think that's something that we need to pay attention to. I think that we need to, read the scriptures on that, and really need to focus and learn as much as we can from him. And young leaders like you and other people should be writing books or coming out with videos like you're doing on podcasts, and kind of explaining that to people so that they can understand that as well, because that's a huge part of making this world a better place.
Yes. I was just I was gonna bring that up too.
Yeah. Okay.
Of how important it is, and everything that we're talking about, of where we are right now, and going forward, the generation, we were here for such a time as this,
absolutely,
and to make such impact, and God giving us that trust in of I want to use you. For these times, because a lot of it is going to be countercultural.
Of course.
But you know what? You're not alone in it.
One of the things I want to kind of advise the younger generation, my father was a pastor, and I'm a pastor as well, so there's this generational blessing on my life. What I wanted to tell the younger, your audience and people who are listening to you, the younger leaders, is that let's not try to copy the world's corporate model to be what the church should be. And I know some people will be there'll be a lot of people will be amen, and the people will and they kind of not understand what you're truly trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is this: the corporate world is going towards the model of the church. If the world realizes that their culture is toxic and they're moving towards because servant leadership, the book that Robert Greenleaf, he started that movement and he wrote a lot of great books about it. You can fact check that, but he talks about, like if you talk about the characteristics of a servant leader, humility, calling, community developer, like all these things are what church does, right? Exactly. So they're moving towards that. We should not be copying models of corporate professional world and then pasting it onto the church. The church has to be the leader. It has to be better than, So if you're copying that, then and they're copying the church, exactly. So as the new leaders and younger leaders, where are you taking us? That's what I want to know. Where's the church going to be? You know what I'm saying? In the future, man. What's the church going to look like in 2030, man? What's the church going to look like? Yeah. And who are the leaders? Who are going to be the influencers that are going to really, make an impact? And are they going to be for the people? Are they going to be for really about, like a pyramid is like this, right?
Yeah.
And it's the man on the top giving orders to everybody on the bottom. But if you flip it upside down, it's about, imagine if a leader can love and support and help, like make everybody feel safe up there, and then he reaches down to so the first person walking into the door of your church is going to feel that because the leader, all the airlines, man, like you hear about all the people being disrespected and stuff like that. Why is that? Because these people who are working at these places are not happy with their job. It just reflects onto the customers, man. So, you know what I'm trying to say? And if you have a great experience, it's because the corporate culture is a great corporate healthy culture.
And that's why it's so important, the culture.
Yeah.
Like, that's on you to help.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, and that's another thing, like I touched on. It's like, you don't need a position to be a leader.
Yes.
You're leading where you're at.
Yes.
And you're able to impact and create this culture of, like, what it really should look like. Like, what it to have that. Like, to have people like, you know what? We're excited. You know, we want to do what we're doing.
Right.
Like, you're able to do that. Like, you don't need, I need this title or whatever. Right. And then, like, I can start, like, putting that. No, like, just go where you are. But
think about Jesus and what his main mission was. He came to bring everybody in. He was not he wasn't trying to cast out people. Like, people think that Jesus is so exclusive and like, he's about being holy, no sin and all that. But actually, when you know his true purpose, he was trying to include everybody. The prostitutes, the tax collectors.
That was his crowd.
Yeah, and the poor, the sick, like the lepers. Like, nobody wanted to touch lepers. He wanted to go and restore and to bring that.
Yeah.
So as leaders, if we do that, where we can help restore and help build up, that is the journey and the mission of a servant leader, and it's going to take a lot. I mean, what kind of leaders would be willing to not take a paycheck to keep someone on staff just because he wants to keep that environment safe? And if someone isn't working as well as they want, to communicate that and to mentor them.
Right.
Instead of just saying, you're not a good fit, goodbye.
No,
you know what I'm trying to say?
This whole feedback, having these conversations, and going from there. Like, over time, all right, nothing is still changed. Change. You still have that conversation. The chance was there and everything. And then it's not like, okay, well, you can't just do anything. Like, okay, we're gonna just have to put you somewhere else. But all of that is being done. Though. You've had those conversations.
Yes.
Rather than, and that's what makes it great leader.
So I want to ask you, if you were a leader and you had the position, right, and you had a multi-million-dollar, like a church that was able to, raise multi-millions of dollars, and you had an opportunity where, I think making that choice says everything about who you are. Like, if you're willing to not take that bonus for yourself, but to help someone who, desperately needs it.
Yeah.
I think that is going to show a lot about where your heart is and what. Yeah. Because I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like, it's not about that adoration or that honor of you being a leader. I of course wanted to succeed my dad and whatever, but I think sometimes choosing the thing that is not so worthy, glamorous and all that, and to be